Welcome to ducbloke tuning and finding the sweet spot. Grab a cup of coffee and like and subscribe.
And welcome back, ducbloke tuning, finding the sweet spot. It's cold in New York. What better way to spend the day watching football and doing IEM reviews? I'm a Bears fan. I kind of went down today. That's okay. This cheers me up. The Thieaudio Prestige Limited. This is an IEM that I tried sometime back after I'd bought my MK3, my MMK3, I should say, the Monarch Mark III. You know, a lot of people said, oh, you know, the Prestige Limited is better. And once I finally got a chance to try it, I was like, you know what? I think it is. Now I know why it costs a couple $100 more, because it's better. It doesn't have as many options as far as faceplates and the looks. Same box, we already did the unboxing video, same box as the rest of the high-end Thieaudio products. Same sort of cable that comes with a lot of the, and we're going to go through this in the review. And we already did this in the unboxing, but man, the shells are gorgeous, and you can't really show it, you got to see it. It's sort of like looking into the universe, and that's why I use like a universe background here. It is actually kind of 3D when you look into it. It's holographic. We're also going to be comparing this against its brothers. So its siblings, the Valhalla, the MMK3, and the MMK4, which I've all had across my desk, and I still own my MMK3. It's right here. Won't let that one go. Absolutely love it. But with that, let's get stuck into the review for the Thieaudio Prestige Limited Edition. So unboxing is done. It has very cool resin shells. It has a cloth case. And we're going to go through what the case looks like. There's the case. It's very similar to or exactly the same as the case that you get with a lot of the high-end Thieaudio products like the MMK4 and the MMK3. Sorry, the MMK3. The MMK4 doesn't come with this. Or the Oracle. The Oracle comes with this sort of case as well, the older Oracle. It has a modular cable. The cable comes with a 2.5, 3.5, and 4.4. It comes with 9 sets of tips, 3 of which are foam. It comes with a cleaning cloth, and it comes with extra filters, which is always nice. Extra filters so that, you know, you get a little bit of airwax down there. You can pop those off and put some on as well. This is the cable. This is the modular cable that it comes with. It has a knurling on both ends, so it sort of looks the part when it's assembled like it's just, you know, supposed to be continued that way. It doesn't have a thread to screw it down, which is something that I like in a modular cable. But it comes with a 2.5, and nobody uses a 2.5 anymore. So it really just needs to come with a 3.5 and a 4.4, which it does as well. The cable is a nice sort of silky brown 4-twist. They don't braid it, it's actually twisted together. And then the hardware on it is unbranded. There's the knurling on it, like I was talking about. It does say Thieaudio on the plug, but the Y-split doesn't actually have any branding on it, but it does match. And then the ear hooks, if you look at the 2-pin connectors, they actually match quite well as well. So they've got like a 2-groove, sort of like darts, 2-groove on them, and it's a 2-pin, and it's not recessed, so it's a flush 2-pin. I used Asla Sendea AirFit tips on this because I thought they fit best, a little bit better actually than my normal Divinus Velvets. So that's what I used for this, and that's my second go-to. What's inside of it? So let's have a look at the specs. So you get 4 ESTs instead of 2 that the Monarchs have. You get 4 BAs, and you get 1 dynamic driver. So there's 9 drivers in total per side. It has an 11 ohm impedance, which is fairly easy to drive. We're going to look a little bit at the actual drivers. So inside it, if you look here, it's got 4 Sonian electrostats. It's got 2 nulls for the mid treble, and then it's got 2 Sonians for the lower mid, and then it's got the dynamic driver as the subwoofer. So that's what they're using, and I do like 4 EST sets. I'm a bass head, and people accuse me of, let's see, making things a little bit dark. I actually brighten this IEM, and it's pretty bright to start with, and that's because it can take it without going sibilant. And that's the key point, is you've got to push this to the edge of sibilance, and I hate sibilance, and this one doesn't do it. It's actually really good. It sparkles really, really well. This is the graph on SquigLink. You can see that it is ever so slightly treble over bass. It has a tuck where it glides from the mid bass into the lower mids at about 180 hertz. I like that. That's about the spot that I like to tune to. And it has very good treble extension as well. This is what the OG looks like. So there was a predecessor to this, and that's the Prestige. And the Prestige Limited actually changed the tuning quite a bit. It wasn't as bloated in that transition from the mid bass to the lower mids. It actually happened a little bit earlier. It gave it a bass tuck. And the treble extension was actually spicier above 10K on the OG. This is what it looks like compared to the Monarch Mark III. Very similar tuning. So you can see that they're almost marrying up with each other all the way through. What they did is they said, okay, we're going to add a few more ESTs. We're going to make this thing shimmer a little bit, sparkle a little bit more in the upper treble region, and give you the same sort of tuning as the Monarch Mark III. And that's exactly what they've done here. This is the Monarch Mark IV. And you can see the Monarch Mark IV actually does an even tighter bass tuck, where it starts to tuck at about 150 hertz. So let's look at this back and forth. You can see how this changes. And that the red line changing is what they did from the Mark III to the Mark IV, is they brought that bass tuck further back, sort of closer to what a meta tuning would be. There's actually a W in this. It's a meta-ish tuning. And then the treble region was actually pretty much the same. So you can see they follow each other fairly well. And then this is the Valhalla. And the Valhalla and the Prestige actually share more in common than the Monarch Mark III and the Monarch Mark IV. The Valhalla is almost married up to this all the way out to about 2K. And then it is actually slightly darker. And that's one of the reasons that I scored the Valhalla lower than I scored the others. And I'm going to show you that a little bit further on out of the box. But does it have more potential once it's tuned? And you'll find out further in the review. Just wanted to show you that so that you could see exactly what happens. When you look at all four of them combined, it becomes a little bit of a dog's breakfast. But you can see that, Thieaudio pretty much has the same tuning in mind. They have a signature sound, a house sound, if you will. And you can see that right here is that Monarch Mark IV, where you have a departure and it starts to tuck a little bit earlier, but they all extend their treble pretty similarly. This is where I started when I did my 30-song listen, and I created my PEQ array. So I listened to it, and it matched really well. I'm going to actually scroll to this real quick. It matched really well to my target that was neutral at 0 bass lift. So that's my target, the dotted line going along there. And you can see how it actually tunes really well to that target. So that's why I plot it right here. That's where it fits on my graph before the PEQs are applied. And then I listen to 30 songs, and I select different PEQs depending on the song for what sounds best. And sometimes I split the score between 2 PEQs or even 4. In general, this gives me an average of where this should be tuned. And now I know that this should be 1.75 brighter. That's not dB, that's steps in my scale, and about a 2.75 bass lift. So you go from here to here on average. Most of the songs, or the highest amount of songs, were at that bright 2 bass 3 level, but it didn't go beyond that. And it was less than that in some of the other regions. So that's the average of where this falls for my neutral setting to start out with the PEQs to do my review. This is where I went with my neutral tuning. You can see that there was a bass lift just here at about 3.5 dB. That my transition into the lower mids was pretty much the same. And you can see that my Pina gain started just a little bit later. And then I added treble. So this is what I was talking about. I added treble to this between 4K, 12K. I added treble to this. I sucked out a little bit of treble above 15 in the tuning, pretty much added more sparkle to this, and pushed it to the edge of sibilance because this thing controls sibilance really well. Like I said, I was able to add more treble to this and really give it a great holographic soundstage layering, everything. You'll see it in the scoring. Now I'm going to show you how this transitions when I go into, let's say, the sparkle setting. So here's sparkle, and you can see, watch these two arrows here. I'm going to go back and forth. You're going to see how that elevates. So that's my sparkle tuning going ever so slightly up. It doesn't take much to create a second tuning for sparkle. We're talking about half a dB at about 4K, we're talking about half a dB at 10K, and we're talking about 1 dB at 15K with a large Q value that actually changed this treble region just ever so slightly and gave it that sparkle. Now we're going to show you what I did from the neutral setting to make it hard hitting. What I did here, watch the bass region, is I elevated the bass and everything else remains the same. I elevated that bass by 1 dB. That's right, that's a 1 dB lift right there. And that's it, and that gives you your hard hitting. So I find the neutral position where I think it should be neutral, and then I add just a little bit more bass to it, and I create the 3 PEQs that I can send out to my subscribers. Here's what this thing, it looks like a wheel. My 17 parameters that I measured on this, it starts out as a 9.69 out of 10 out of the box. So it scores really high. And then it would move to a 9.83 out of 10 after tuning. So it moves up into the very high S tier range at a 1 kilobuck IEM. But what's wonderful about this IEM is it has no sibilance and it's excellent out of the box all the way around. I just expanded it. I just elevated each one of the parameters ever so slightly, except for sibilance and except for masking. There's no masking in this either. This scores incredibly high. Looks like a wheel. Looks like you could put it on a car and drive it. It is so well balanced. And it just became better by adding the PEQ. Here's where its strengths are. So this is the bar graph, the same parameter, same scoring system, and things that were like above a 9.5, I'm putting them in as strengths, even though the base was a 9.58. Those, let's call that the lowest scoring on this IEM out of the box. The strengths are really the lower mids, the treble, soundstage detail, layering, the masking, the sibilance again is absolutely perfect. It's stunning out of the set. The timbre, the tonality, the texture, and that's what gave it such a high score. It's such a great score out of the box. And then when you look at just behind it after PEQ, everything is elevated. Again, the superstars here are the mid section, the treble, the soundstage, the detail, the layering, the timbre, the tonality, and the texture. But the bass was excellent. The bass was like a 9.76. The sub bass 9.76, the bass feel 9.77. Then you have your note weight 9.76 and your slam 9.77. It is excellent for bass, but it just gives such great detail, clarity, and no sibilance that I absolutely love this IEM. I'm happy it's in my stable. Finally got one. Now we're going to compare it against its siblings. So out of the box, this scores higher than the MMK3, which comes in second for me, the MMK4, which comes in third, and then the Valhalla, which comes in fourth. And remember I said the Valhalla out of the box, because of its bass. The Valhalla is here in blue. So I've changed my scale. This goes from 8 to 10. That's why it sort of amplifies what's actually happening here. And you can see the Valhalla is a little bit sibilant out of the box. It also doesn't have incredible sub bass, even though the graph shows sub bass. Because it's a BA, it's not giving you that same punch that you get out of a dynamic driver, but you can fix that. The lower mids, I thought they were a bit funkier on the Valhalla than everything else. So that got a 9.41 here, a 9.61, a 9.63, and a 9.69. So the Prestige wins against its peers out of the box. Now this is what happens after tuning. Everything switches around. So now the Valhalla is number one. So now the Valhalla scores a 9.84. And you can see here in green, what I've done here is shown for each parameter which one scored best. And the Valhalla, on average, scored higher than everything else on each parameter. But there were some parameters that the Prestige Limited still won, and the MK4 actually tied, and that was in the sub bass. So the bass was very close on these, but the sub bass was still better having that dynamic driver. The masking, they all got a 10, and this is what was interesting. The sibilance on the Prestige Limited got a 10. It was the only one out of the lot that got a 10, and the sibilance on the Valhalla was still a 9.81, so it was still ever so slightly sibilant after I tuned it. But its texture, and I put this in the review, its texture, it's a texture beast. And that's what the Valhalla does really, really well. Like if you're playing orchestra music and strings, Valhalla is the king. But for me, I like the Prestige Limited, and it's about $700 cheaper. So, the Prestige Limited to me is better value for money. And in some people, this is made out of unobtainium because it's a little bit pricey. But if you're going to spend this kind of money, I think the Prestige Limited is a better choice. But you get resin shells, you don't get the titanium and so on. But still, an excellent IEM. And then we go down to the Monarch Mark IV, which still holds that in number 3, and then the Monarch Mark III drops down into 4th place after the tuning is applied. This is my ranking list, just showing the Thieaudio kilobuck IEMs, and again, the Valhalla is number 1, the Prestige Limited is number 2. I think I'm shamelessly hyped this one. This one's highly recommended, and then the Monarch Mark III I think is shamelessly hyped as well. They're all very close to each other, but they do separate on average in some of the parameters. Wrapping it up, Prestige Limited. I am going to shamelessly hype this. I'm going to put the value for money scale up. It's not a 10 out of 10 because it's an expensive IEM. So at this price range, I'm putting it in as around an 8. It's still in the green range, 8 out of 10, let's say, but it's one of those that I've been wanting to get my hands on, and I'll be keeping it just like I do my Monarch Mark III. This is going to stay in the stable for quite some time. There you are. I don't know. know if you can see that. Like the universe. And with that, we're growing the channel. Please like and subscribe. Have a look at the ranking video that I just did. I'll put a link in the description. And happy Sunday night. Ducbloke out.